Greetings all, and welcome to Daily Pali Reading. Today we are going to read from the fourth sutta of the third division of the Digha Nikaya. The sutta is the Aggaññasuttaṃ. And we are going to pick up the action, so to speak, where the Buddha begins talking about the radiant gods. Hoti ko so vaseta samayo yang kadachi karahachi digasa adhuno achayena ayang loko sangvatati. There is, vaseta, this time, during which, at certain points, with the passing of a long interval of time, this world evolves. There is a lot of interest in this one little line, both grammatically and thematically. First of all, let's go through kind of the grammar, and then we'll talk about we'll talk about the content. First of all, the Buddha is addressing vaseta, and that is our vocative, which we get as our fourth word in. The Buddha is explaining, he says, hoti. Now that is the third person singular present active indicative of bhavati, we could say, or just this is the verb to be. And here I think we can say there is. Ko is perhaps just continuing from before, or hoti ko, there is indeed vaseta. So is the demonstrative pronoun, and it's going with samayo. They're both masculine singular nominatives. There is indeed vaseta this time. Now we have the relative pronoun yang. This yang is a little tricky. Typically, a relative pronoun is going to have some sort of function in the next clause. It might be an object or a subject. Here, this is not the case. If we look at our next clause, and we'll come back to it in a minute in more detail, we have as the subject ayang loko, and we have this verb sangvatati, which we've provisionally translated as evolves. So there's no object and there's already a subject. So yang is not functioning as an object or a subject, and I think sometimes people will say that this is an adverbial usage. But I think we can put a slightly finer point on this. If we recall that the accusative case can be used to express the duration of time, and we know that this yang is going with samayo, it can't go with anything else, this time which. Now, if it's expressing the duration of time, we might just say, there is vaseta this time during which. That would capture the extent, the duration. And what that's telling us is the next clause, whatever is happening in the next clause is happening within so samayo, this specific time that the Buddha is talking about. So then we have kadachi karahachi. Now these chis, the ci, that's an indefinite marker. That's something that we will see sometimes appended onto interrogative pronouns, for example. So instead of ko, who, kochi, whoever. And so here, these chis are functioning to make this more indefinite. Now, kadachi karahachi is really kind of a stock phrase. It happens together. The Pali English Dictionary gives it as at some time or other, at times. So we can keep that in mind. I didn't think it was a great idea to have the word time repeated so often. So instead of time, I just went with the word point. So at some point, at certain points. Then we have digasa adhuno, achayena. Achayena is from achaya, which means a lapse or a passing away. And this is an instrumental case. The instrumental case can express time as well. I think the Pali English Dictionary says Aggañña would mean after the lapse of, after. But to preserve that instrumental quality, I like using the word with the passing. The passing of what? We have before that these two words, digasa adhuno. They're both in the genitive case. Dika, we find in this very collection of suttas, the Digha Nikaya, it means long. And then adhuno is the genitive dative of adhang, which means an interval or period of time. So upon or with the passing of a long period of time. Then we have ayang loko. Ayang is the demonstrative pronoun. It's masculine singular nominative. Loko also masculine singular nominative. This world. And then we get to this very interesting verb, sangvatati. Now, this is not the same as sangvatati. That word occurs very often. Sangvatati, the word we have here, and it's very difficult for me to distinguish the two in pronunciation, only occurs 3 times in the entire Digha Nikaya. And I did not obviously go through and count those myself. I used the search function on the tipitaka.org website, which is an amazing tool to have at our disposal. Now, the issue with this verb, and it is paired up with another word, another verb we'll see a little later, sangvatati is given as to be evolved, to be in a process of evolution, but also to fall to pieces, to come to an end, to pass away, perish, dissolve. So I took the word evolution just to mean change, not assigning to it whether it's perishing or coming into being. And the reason this is of interest is because if you look at note 46 in Walsh's translation of the Digha Nikaya, he mentions, and I think this is the view of Bhikkhu Bodhi, that the Pali English dictionary definitions should be reversed. And I think there's some confusion, first of all, because there isn't a lot of usage. These words, it's a little harder to pin down when it's only 3 times. And as we go through this, you'll see that it's sort of difficult to understand exactly if the world is sort of like crashing and burning or if it's expanding into a new state, a new stable state. So what I would say is just provisionally, let's let this word just be evolve or change. And so to summarize what we have so far is there is indeed this time, Vaseta, during which, at points, with the lapse of a long interval of time, this world changes.